Hello and welcome back to the Champ.ie podcast. We've had a little break and we're back, of course, for the Yorkshire Ebor preview and joined by Mr. Ronan Groome of the Irish Field and Mr. Mike Vince as well from SIS. So, guys, a fantastic week, I suppose, so far. Mike, any highlights?
Well, you've got to say, I've been banging this name at you all year, but Love is just at the top of everybody's list. It was an imperious performance, every bit as good as Gayeth on day one, but she's a special filly. And I talked to Aidan Brown after the race, and he actually thought she was one of the best that has come through his hands, and that's quite an accolade from Aidan. And I think all we can do now is pray, because we all know first Saturday in October, it can be glorious in Paris or it can be absolutely filthy. We don't want bottomless ground for any of them.
On a bottomless ground, Ronan Groome, how would you see, I suppose, I know we're here to preview York, but how would you see Paris going?
Yeah, Enable can't run scared in Paris, so looking forward to that. I think very disappointing that they decided to dodge that race today. I thought she was just left to do what she had to do, and she did it well. She didn't really tell us any more than we know already, but she's obviously a top-class filly, and top-class fillies always go well in the Arc because they have quite a big weight concession that seems to tell at that time of the year. So she deserves to be, well, she's very short in the market now, considering what Gayeth done on earlier in the week on Wednesday as well. So yeah, it's a lot to look forward to, but Love definitely deserves her place at the top of the Arc market at the moment, I think.
Just love Gayeth. We'll have to see, of course, how that all plays out. But here, I suppose, first of all, Mike, you caught up with Jim Crowley, of course, who rides last year's Nunthorpe favourite. And we're going to look at Friday first. Of course, that's the big Group 1 on Friday, the Nunthorpe. You caught up with Jim Crowley. Let's have a quick listen to see what Jim had to say about Battaash.
It would have been perfect. He'd have bounced off it. And look, he's one on good to soft, so that's not a problem. It just makes it easier carrying that top weight. He's got plenty of weight. Obviously, we've got an extra £3. All the horses have an extra £3 this year because of the no sauna rule with the COVID-19. So, he's got an extra £3 on top of what he carries, along with all the other horses.
A small field, does that influence your thinking at all?
No, not really. You're running against roughly the same horses. Obviously, there's Ornate in the race who likes to. I was pleased to see Ornate in the race, to be fair, because he's a fast horse and he gave us a lovely toe last year. Look, there's probably 3 horses to beat in the field. You've got Art Power, who will relish soft ground. I'm not sure Al Ali has done enough to warrant to be worried about. You've always got to respect them. They've still got on the form book, they've still got plenty to find. He's still sort of £10 clear of them. So, they're the ones who've got to step up to it as well.
Was the reason you're pleased about Ornate because of the fact that, there will be something up front alongside you?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look, like we were saying earlier, he's had to do the donkey work twice this year now, pretty much. And I think it would be nice to get a toe, slipstream something for a furlong and or just get a lead or something. So he seems to be about the only one recently in the last few years to be able to sort of lead him for a furlong,
And would it be more special because this would complete the 3, Ascot, Goodwood and York? Be a terrific hat-trick.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, look, it's these sprinters, as you see year in, year out, they normally take it in turns, and it's very hard to find a sprinter who's dominant. And this fella's been fairly dominant now for the last few years, so it'd be lovely to do it again.
Mike, do you think, I suppose, Art Power, I mean, he's no mug and he has a string of ones beside his name. Do you think he can at least enter the mix here?
Yeah, and he's a 3-year-old, of course, but I mean, I still stick at the back of my mind, what was it, about an hour and a half apart, wasn't it, at Royal Ascot on the first day, when Art Power won the 3-year-old handicap, which opened the meeting, which was one of the extra races they bunged in to give horses more opportunities. That was a handicap. And then Battaash strutted his stuff in Group 1. And now here they are. There's only £2 between them. They used to be Yada in Great Nick, but, and Battaash doesn't have the potential problem of the crowd. I can't have Ali. I don't think he's good enough. I just think if there is going to be a surprise, then you could do a lot worse than look at the Kevin Ryan horse, Emirati Ana. And the reason I say that is because look at the depth of the Ryan sprinters. They wouldn't be running this horse in a Group 1 if they didn't think he got a squeak of place money. And if you don't think Battaash will win, I think Battaash will win. You've got to find the second, and I'd rather have Emirati Ana than Art Power to chase him home.
And did you give Jim Crowley, I suppose, a pat on the shoulder for that Royal Ascot for top jockey, 25-1, Mike Vince?
Yeah, well, don't, because there, we get to day 2 at York, and what wins the big handicap? The grey that was second in the Hunt Cup. If he'd have won the Hunt Cup, then 25-1 would have been all mine.
Ronan Groome, have you any outside selection, any dirty each-way plays here against? Of course, Battaash is 4-9, just for the listeners. Our Power 3-1, AA Ali. I've been calling him AA Ali. He actually was my nap a couple of weeks ago when he won at the Curragh. He's 8-1, Moss Gill 28-1. Is there anything at an outside price, Ronan, that you would? I mean, we're going to have the 8 runners, it looks like.
Yeah, I don't really see the price difference, why the price difference is so big between Our Power and A Ali. As I said, it was quite impressive at the Curragh there, A Ali. So Our Power and A Ali are both 3-year-olds and both came over to win good Irish races on their last starts. Like a lot of good British sprinters often do, they come over. We don't seem to be as strong in that department. But A Ali went and beat Make a Challenge, and he was only getting £4 off him there. As a 3-year-old, like usually, you'd expect sometimes 3-year-olds get a bit more weight, but as it worked out, Ali had won the Sandown race, so was only getting £4 off Make a Challenge, and I thought like he beat him quite comfortably there. Like he started off a bit slow and kind of had to work his way through the race, and he really hit the line hard for Colin Keane. I just didn't see why. There's only £2 in the difference between them in ratings, Our Power and A Ali. Didn't see why Our Power was so shorter in the betting. So if you did want one each way, 8-1 about A Ali with the dead 8 here seems like a fairly good bet. One at a bigger price again, a huge price, I think, is Ornate, who Oisin Murphy's going to run. Like he's ran third to Battaash twice in the King George at huge prices. He seems to be that type of horse who will just run. Sometimes it suits him, these smaller fields. He can get out in front and he could stay on for a place, and just the way the race pans out, I wouldn't be surprised if he hit the frame again at a huge price. Battaash, I always just think everyone raves about him, and obviously he looks sensational when he's on his day, but he's only won 3 Group 1s for all his dominance. He's 6 now. He's not like the likes of Stradivarius and Enable who've won these multiple big number Group 1s, because he just does have the odd day where he just doesn't fancy it or something upsets him, and as Mike said, there's no crowd there, so that helps in that regard. And you would expect him to win. He's 7-2 with Paddy Power to break the track record. I don't know if the ground's going to be fast enough.
No way. No way
to do that. Yeah, I'm not saying it's a price or anything. I just think it's interesting that it's another angle people might look to have a bet on this race. But I always think it's worth taking him on.
Does Ornate doesn't get the trip, does he?
What? Doesn't get the trip?
No. If it was 4 furlongs, you'd be back in Ornate all day long, wouldn't you?
True that, yeah. The way you blast off in front, but I'm not sure. I just think it's worth. He's not one I'd plough into odds on Battaash. He just seems to have that. Even last year, he flopped when he went over to Longchamp and didn't run his race there. I just think often he will just run a clanger or whatever like that. So he just not one wouldn't be one I'd be hanging the hat on at odds on. But looking forward to seeing him again anyway.
This is Andrew Blair White's preview of day 4 of the York Festival. Just come up on my screen, a plug for the Blair White blog. Andrew will be having you back on the podcast pretty soon, I'm sure. An hour earlier, of course, on Friday, 2:15 at York, the Lonsdale Cup. The Lonsdale Cup Stakes. No Stradivarius, of course, which may leave an opportunity for one here. Jim Crowley, of course, and Hamdam Al Maktoum have the leading fancy again here. Well, he's the favourite, 2-1 favourite, En Behar. Show of betting. I'll give it to you now, guys. So it is Bahar, 15-8. Dashing Willoughby, 3-1. Neaf Road, of course, an old favourite of yours, Mike Vince, 3-1. Eagles by Day, 8-1. Withhold, 12-1. Stratham for Willie Mullins, and Jason Watson is booked for the ride there, 20-1. And Who Dares wins, 28-1. Who wins it, Mike?
This is the AGM of the Stradivarius Avoidance Society, isn't it? You would love to see Neaf Road win because he's suffering from seconditis. Because of course, not only do they have Neaf Road, but before that they had DXB, the Johnston team, and who was a perennial second to the Gosden Beast. There's a lot to like about it. I talked to Jim about NB Hard. He thinks this trip is right up his street. I will chance Dashing Willoughby against it because I actually liked his win. He's 2 from 2, and the only slight thing is we're just hoping the weather forecast is accurate, which is no more rain. Very strong win. I think Dashing Willoughby's better value than NBH in a race with a small field. Who's going to make the running? Withhold. Dashing Willoughby for me, just.
Ronan Groome, thoughts on the Lansdale Cup Stakes?
Yeah, I think Neaf Road is a bit underestimated here. If you're taking the form this season and you take Embahar's form, all she's really done is won that Lily Langtry Stakes, and fair enough, she's won as she liked, but she's only beaten one runner that day. The O'Brien filly Snow ran no sort of race at all, was beaten 10 lengths. There was only 3 runners. Compare that to Neaf Road, who's he's finished second in the Ascot Gold Cup, and then he's finished second at Goodwood to Stradivarius and beat Santiago, the Irish Derby winner, and conceded him a fair amount of weight at that as well. I think that's much more solid book of form compared to Mbahar on this season alone. I know Mbahar has some pieces of form last season that look good. Dashing Willoughby I do give a chance to as well. I think he's progressive over this trip and he has a bit more scope to improve over 2 miles. But Neaf Road I thought should be favourite on what he's done this season, and as Mike said, I think he deserves to win a pot like this, having finished second to Stradivarius twice now in Group 1s. The Goodwood Cup as well as a Group 1. So, Neaf Road would be a selection for me.
Agree with that, Ronan Groome. I think 3-1. I think possibly should be shorter than that, or maybe disputing favouritism. 3:40, lads, the big one, the Sky Bet Ebor handicap on the Saturday. Give you a quick show of betting here. Fajera Prince is 11-2. Pablo Escobar 13-2. Trushan for Alan King 15-2. Monica Sheriff 70-2. True Self for Willie Mullins 9-1. Bit of support for that one. Deja for Peter Chapelheim is 12-1. Pondus 12-1. And it's 14-1 bar the rest. The Ebor, Ronan Groome, the Irish have taken 5 of the last 10 runnings. Thoughts on this year? Can we take it home this year?
Yeah, we've got two good chances. True Self ran well in the race last year, and you got to think Willie Mullins has had this race in mind for her all season, and the plan has just been to deliver her back here, given the prize money, and I'm pretty sure if you win the Ebor, you have some sort of barrier-free entry to the Melbourne Cup. I have to check that qualifying criteria. There's better news on the Melbourne Cup participation for European runners today, because I think they've made a few exemptions down in Australia. So there will be some horses travelling down, or they have allowed for that to happen with the Australian authorities or whatever. So that would be interesting to see how that develops. I kind of, for the laugh, I kind of want to see Deja win this race, because I just think it'll be interesting how they'll kind of handle that stuff. I'm not even sure what Phoenix Thoroughbreds are doing. Obviously, all the controversy that last week developed, and they said they're pulling out of Britain with immediate effect. Yet they're still having runners at York this week, and I don't know. I think they kind of just leaving horses in here just to have a laugh or whatever, and kind of take all the money and be gone or whatever. But it'd be interesting how they'd handle it on TV, on ITV or whatever, if Deja did win. I'm not sure if there's going to be anyone there from Phoenix Thoroughbreds, but he has a chance at 12-1. The one I liked was Monica Sheriff. I think if the ground came up anyway soft, she'd be very, very interesting. And the Irish runner, Joseph's runner Pondus is very interesting as well. The other Irish runner, he is owned by Lloyd Williams, and strong form this season at Leopardstown. You got to think that the Melbourne Cup is on that agenda as well. Fugera Prince is favourite here, top in the market. I just think the form of his last race at Ascot, although it looked pretty impressive, and he has York form, and he's unexposed, and he looks like the right favourite to me. I just thought his form of that race at Ascot, another one of those races that they made up at Royal Ascot this season, just it wasn't that strong. I think the second, third, and fourth have all been kind of well held since. And the one I kind of came down in then, sorry, I'm going on a bit here, but Verdana Blue for Nicky Henderson, who's booked Ryan Moore. All the jumps fans will know Verdana Blue. She's a high class mare over hurdles, but she hasn't had that many goes on the flat. She's second in the Ascot Stakes. That was over 2.5 miles, and I think given her form on over hurdles, her best form obviously is over 2 miles. Coming back in trip has got to suit her. She looks to be on a decent mark, 102, like a workable mark, and as I said, she's unexposed on the flat. So I think she was around the 14-1 mark. That seemed quite fair to me. Verdana Blue for Nicky Henderson.
You've taken my most bullish sales pitch of the whole podcast, Ronan Groome in Verdana Blue.
I knew you tipped the jumps.
I like a horse kind of coming back in trip for the Ebor, I suppose, rather than a horse maybe going up in trip and maybe has a bit of stamina to prove. I think, I do agree with you. Her mark looks pretty fair. She went up 2 pounds. And would you agree, like, I suppose, even though the ground the last day, Ronan, was at Ascot on Verdana Blue's last start was officially good, but I would have said it was probably on the softer side of good. I remember conditions that week. I think it rode pretty slow. Mike, you might have an opinion on that. So I think she hasn't ran in 67 days. Obviously, that wouldn't be a concern coming from Nicky Henderson. Ryan Moore is booked. All the indications say that she ticks a lot of the boxes for the race. Mike, would you have thoughts on Verdana Blue in particular, and then maybe give us your selection for the Ebor?
Yeah, she wouldn't want any more rain, though, I don't think. That would be my initial reaction. There is no rain forecast. I mean, the stats here, if you fancy the favourite, are simply horrible. Only one favourite since 1999. And since that, which was Purple Moon for Jamie Spencer and Luca in 2007, only one horse at a single figure SP has won it. This, of course, was the race where the world first heard of Oisin Murphy when he won on Litigant at any price you like. I'm going to take a total chance here. I love what Ronan says about the top horse here, Deja, but the trouble is, stall 23. I don't know what room 15 in the Holiday Inn is like, but I think the jockey's going to find out. You can't be drawn wider if you tried. One that's been off the track for a very long time. I will chance here each way Monica Sheriff. And the reason is that she's proven in the ground she will get the trip. And W.J. Haggis loves, of course, Yorkshire, loves to try and do it. And this is one that has avoided him. He's never won the Ebor. They've gone straight to the Ebor. He won 5 in a row at the back end of last season. Chance him each way in an absolute minefield of an Ebor. But yeah, when you look at Alan King, Willie Mullins and Nicky Henderson, don't the jump trainers ever go on their holidays?
I was going to say, Mike, from this side of the water and one that's never been to York, what is it about York? What's the unique selling point about York Racecourse?
Well, it's where they hung Dick Turpin all those years ago. They got an all-ticket crowd that day. How they love a few people like that. Yeah. And the reason is that you go to York, and I always find that the crowd at York are the most knowledgeable, passionate, and respectful crowd in racing. Everybody goes for a day out at York. They're not interested in things like that, and the knowledge it is such a good-natured crowd. They've got a top-class track. They tick all the right boxes. I'm just so sad I'm not there this week because it's my favourite 4 days of the year, probably on the flat, if I'm being honest. But they said this Ebor, you've got to go back through it. I actually read a piece for the race card. Since 2000, no trainer has won it more than once. And only one jockey, namely Mr. Spencer, has won it more than once. Gives you some idea of how open it is, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Now, they're wonderful people, and hopefully everybody will be back next year. But I'll take a chance on that each way for William Haggis, because he's never won it, and it would crown his year if Monica Sheriff can come up with the goods. Although she is drawn in 21.
Brilliant stuff, Monica Sheriff. For Mike Vince, Ronan Groome and myself agree for once for Nana Blue at 12 to 1. I think Ronan might have saw 14 to 1 somewhere. That's for Nana Blue for Nicky Henderson. So, yes, lads, coming on 3 o'clock. We'll go back in time again on Saturday, which is the City of York Stakes, a Group 2 for 3-year-olds over 7 furlongs. One master is 7 to 4 favoured now. It was impressive last time. Is that worthy in your eyes, Ronan?
Yeah, you've made the mistake I've made plenty of times with One Master, and assuming that it's a Colts kind of name, but it's a filly One Master. Yeah, she is. I think they found the key to her and not trying to stretch her or bring her back and trip now, and just stick to the 7 furlong races. Unfortunately, in her case, there is no 7 furlong Group 1 in Britain. She was good in the Oak Tree Stakes at Goodwood last time. I think she kind of came through there and came through traffic and won, and probably won with a bit more in hand. And it's all about the Prix de la Forêt for her, which is the 7 furlong Group 1 on the Arc Day. She's won the last 2 times. She's a worthy favourite here because she's joint top rated in the race, and she gets £3 sex allowance. If you wanted to take her on, I think out of the 2 next in the betting, Safe Voyage and San Donato, I did quite like San Donato coming back to this trip as well. He ran quite freely in the Sussex, which was obviously a brilliant race with Mo Hatter and all those good 3-year-olds. And Circus Maximus was second, obviously, as well. He ran too freely there. Most of his good form last season was over 6 furlongs. So coming back and trip, I think, could suit him, especially if he's going to run freely. And
You're looking at my notes, Ronan, are you? You're looking at my notes. Ran a blinder on comeback, step back and trip to suit 7 furlongs. That is standing out. He'd been off for quite a while actually as well before his reappearance. So
I just thought that was interesting for him that he's come back in key. I do think One Master will be difficult to beat. Not a race I'd be probably getting involved in betting wise. I do like One Master. She's a very good filly, consistent, and I think this is her trip. So I think it's her race to lose.
Mike Vince, I like San Donato as well. I thought 5 to 1 looked more than fair. Did you think there was any value to be had here?
Yes, possibly in 1 in a second. Just to mention though, if you're punting on Saturday, watch your bets, because we've got Escobar in this race, and of course we've got Pablo Escobar in the Ebor. So watch your Escobars. Don't want to go down because you got the wrong Escobar. Interesting here for me, and that's this 8-horse Queen Jojo. If this was over 6 furlongs, I think she was a massive price. She won the Summer Stakes from a big field, came with a terrific run. Sam James rode her that day, but because there's a Clipper Logistics interest, Mr. Tuthope takes over. Unproven over 7 since her 2-year-old days. But if this was over 6, she was second in the Cecil Frail. She won the Kilvington at Nottingham. I think 16s or even 20s is a monster price each way. Should like the ground. But as I said, the unknown is the 7th furlong. If this was 6 furlongs, I might even be tempted.
Interesting stuff. Well, we come back across to Ireland on Saturday for the Curragh. Good action here for the 2-year-olds, Ronan Groome, the debutant for the fillies, and the Futurity Stakes, of course. Both over 7 furlongs. What did you fancy, I suppose, in either race at the Curragh?
Yeah, 2 really good races, Barry, the Debutant and the Futurity. The Debutant obviously leading into the Moyglar Stud Stakes, and the Futurity leading into the Vincent de Bruyne National Stakes, which are the 2 big Group 1s for juveniles on Irish Champions Weekend. They priced them up already, and I just thought they might go with Shale as favourite for the Debutant, and I was kind of hoping that they would go that way because I thought Mala was very good for Jim Bolger and Kevin Manning at Galway when last seen. I thought she obviously, if you go back and watch that race, she it doesn't take a genius to sense she was much better than all the rest of them. She came right clear that day. That was her fourth start. Her earlier form was quite good. She was second to Va Fortino, who's ran well since in good company. And I think the penny dropped with her in the last time she won that maiden. I'm pretty sure Hermosa won 2 seasons ago now. And I think she'll take all the beating in the debutante. In the Futurity Stakes, really excited about seeing Cadillac again. I spoke to Gary O'Gorman, Irish flat handicapper, last week. We did a kind of review of the season so far and just got his opinion on all the maiden winners, and he said by far this was the one he was most impressed with. Anyone just, if they're looking at this race, should definitely go and watch that his debut at Leopardstown. The horse that I think that was taking him on, a Paddy Toomey horse, Abiko, kind of just came around him, and Shane Foley was going so well he could kind of just pull him in behind him, had the time to take him around, and then he still won by 9 lengths. Absolutely roasted them home. I think Cadillac could be a potential superstar, and I think it's interesting that he's owned by the Alpha Racing Club, which is essentially a buy to sell operation for Jessica Harrington. They basically signed a lot of people up to a big syndicate that would buy all 10 or 12 horses, and with the idea to sell them on. It's very interesting that they've held on to Cadillac, because presumably because they think he can enhance his value here in the Futurity. I'm sure they would have got any amount of big offers after he won at Leopardstown. So Cadillac there in the Futurity. And another one at the Curragh, I can see going very well, is one for Paddy Toomey in the Fillies handicap there, Red Line Alexander. I like the way he did it, she did it at Roscommon. I think it was either Roscommon or Ballinrobe the last day, one with a bit in hand. I could see her going very well for Paddy Toomey, who's obviously having a really good year. So Red Line Alexander, I think that's in the Fillies handicap at 4:15.
Interesting, Ronan. Yeah, definitely Cadillac was one that caught my eye. Obviously, caught everyone's eye at Leopardstown. But I think even going forward into next year, it'd be interesting to see, will this be, will he have another run after this, or will they put him away, provided he was to go and win here, 13-8.
They'll probably go for the national stakes, as is said there. This is the winners of this race usually go on to Irish Champions Weekend for the national stakes. It's over the same course and distance, so that's probably the route they take, I'd say.
Probably the plan. Yeah, definitely. Given his pedigree as well, if he was to continue to progress, you might be looking at him maybe as a potential Guineas horse for next year. Cadillac by, of course, Lope de Vega as well. So Jessica Harrington's having good luck with that sire. Mike Vince, anything in the debutante for Charity or elsewhere at the Curragh that I suppose you were interested in on Saturday?
I was presenting for SIS when Cadillac won, and I don't remember any kind of race of that sort at Leopardstown where you're looking for second a furlong and a half out. It was hugely impressive. Yeah, it's only a maiden, you can get carried away, but if that horse goes and produces anything similar to that performance, then that's the end of that. That is game over. At the debutant, I just can't work this out at all. I like Miala Galway, but the $64,000 question in saying I've put this in the bin mark far too difficult is the rain. How much rain's been around? Because I know parts of Ireland have and will get between now and Saturday an awful lot of the wet stuff, because there's this Storm Ellen, and soft ground could have this put straight in the proverbial dustbin. All I would say is, on the basis of what I've seen, I'd rather be with Wayne Lorden and Snowfall than Shamie Heffernan and Mother Earth of the Aidan O'Brien squad. But I wouldn't be playing too late here. Let's first of all see what the ground is like by Saturday.
Interesting. Mike, we'll stay with you. Coming on to Sunday, there's group action at Naas and Sandown. Anything across either card catch your eye?
It's a question of what's going to turn up, and to some extent the 2-year-old races at Sandown, the Solario, some of it is going to depend on what ends up at Deauville. And Doyle, of course, has been a right squelchathon for the last couple of weeks. They certainly had enough water. I think they probably try and do a swap with the British, do a trade deal with the Brits to get rid of some of it. But if a horse called Feather Over, Richard Fahey's, turns up in the Solario at Sandown on Sunday, I think he'll go very close. I really liked him on debut. I think Ben Curtis is likely to ride him, and I think he's got a huge chance if he turns up there, but he may go to France. As far as the Irish card is concerned, it's a very good card at Naas. Naas, it really continues to catch the eye for the quality of its cards. But they're running this Group 3 Stenera over 1 mile and 6. And then we got the Ballyhane Stakes, which is big money, but there are 3 Brits in it. But what on earth's going to get in the race? And 1 mile and 6 around Naas, particularly if the ground is easy. Again, we don't know till tomorrow what's going to turn up. But if Rafe Beckett were to send a horse called Hereby over, I'd be very interested in it. But again, I've got to say I find it difficult to call the Irish action this weekend until we know whether the Almighty and the Plumber have settled their differences.
Ronan Groome, Naas on Sunday. Anything for you?
Yeah, it's a bit more difficult on Sunday, Barry. Obviously, they've declared for the Ballyhane Stakes already. This is a new race for the 2-year-old median auction bought horses. It's a nice initiative put up by Joe Foley and Ballyhane. There's 320 grand.
I know where you're going with this
one.
I know where you're going with this one, but go on. Is it a local trainer? Is it a local trainer?
I've no real opinion on the race, to be honest. But I was just trying to make the point that it's a very good initiative from Ballyhane to put up this sort of prize money. It's interesting as well. The British runner Devious Company ran second in the big sales race today, is in there. I wonder will they run that again? You'd imagine not, but they had to declare today because it's 72-hour declarations. So that would be interesting to see what happens. Earlier on in the card in the Group 3 there, I did like it's later on in the card, I did like Castaza for Dermot Well. I think she's a real progressive type of filly and did well to win Goran on her first start of the season. So if she's declared, I think she'll take an awful lot of beating.
Mike Vince, best bets of the weekend, Nap and MB. Fire away. You've had some good success with this. You've had some good success.
On the spot, aren't you? I've got to go Cadillac. I'll go Cadillac, and I will also go Queen Jojo each way in the 3 o'clock, which is that Group 2 at York on Saturday.
Mike, I'm in agreement. My nap of the weekend, Cadillac, 13-8. I think still value there. Looked absolutely like a bit of a monster at Leopardstown. Verdana Blue as well, I think, is good value. I'll put that in as the NB. Ronan Groome, Nap and NB of the weekend?
Yeah, Nap, go the Lonsdale Cup tomorrow. I think Naaf Road is a fair old price at around 3-1. I think you might be able to get 7-2 in certain places as well. I think that's pretty good value. Next best, might as well have a crack at the Ebor. I think Verdana Blue at around the 14-1 mark is decent value, and you probably get good each way terms on Saturday morning. So if you got 14-1 with maybe top 5 or top 6, that would seem a fair bet to me.
Brilliant stuff. Well, let's hope we can have some luck on, what did they call it, the Naesmire, is it, Mike? The Naesmire?
Yes, loved by many and hated by only one, Dick Turpin.
You and Dick Turpin wouldn't have got along. Yes, I suppose
sold more tickets than I ever did.
But something else there I wanted to say. But lads, listen, that concludes the Champ.ie podcast for this week. That was it, Mike. I was hoping that Starmella might stay away from you. Give you a bit of peace this weekend. But that concludes this week's podcast. We'll be back next week. Make sure subscribe to the YouTube channel as well for more of this content every Thursday coming your way. Thanks very much, lads.